who have the book in hand, of course, I say I'll be doing a presentation from the PowerPoint, which I shall be doing. I just want to read just one or two excerpts, as it were, to set a foundation for where I want to proceed. And in chapter 7 of the book, you have something called the palmer worm, the locust, the cankerworm, the caterpillar. Chapter 7. And that topic is based, as we realize, on Joel chapter 1, verse 4, which says, that which the palmer worm hath left, hath the locust eaten, and that which the locust have eaten, hath the cankerworm eaten, hath the cankerworm eaten, and that which the cankerworm hath left, hath the caterpillar eaten. These destroyers are different stages, I say, of this locust family. Notice they all eat for themselves and do not share even with their young. Likewise, the destroyers of the husband and wife relationship are all members of the same family. Now, the 4 stages are outlined there that I would have gone through, and I'm not going through them tonight necessarily, but I just want us to bear in mind that these represent destructive stages in the marriage relationship. And then I want to turn back to page 22 rather, as we now begin to proceed in earnest. And I want to read 2 thoughts from there. Mutual forbearance is needed. And this is a chapter that I said we will discuss in groups, but I think that we're going to forego that on Wednesday and have it together rather. Listen to some statements before we get going into direct we want to look at. Mutual forbearance on page 22 of the book. We must have the Spirit of God, or we can never have harmony in the home. Does this sound like anything that we have been teaching here, even at this camp? The wife, if she has the Spirit of Christ, will be careful of her words. She will control her spirit. She will be submissive, and yet will not feel that she is a bond slave, but a companion to her husband. If the husband is a servant of God, he will not lord it over his wife. He will not be arbitrary and exacting. We cannot cherish home affection with too much care. For the home, if the Spirit of the Lord dwells there, is a type of heaven. If one errs, the other will exercise what? Christ-like forbearance and not draw coldly away. I like that because it strikes right and directly at many a problem in families. I repeat, if one errs, the other will exercise Christ-like forbearance and not draw coldly away. Neither the husband nor the wife should attempt to exercise over the other an arbitrary control. Do not try to compel each other to yield to your wishes. You cannot do this and retain each other's love. Be kind, patient, and forbearing, considerate, and courteous. By the grace of God, you cannot succeed in making each other happy as in your marriage vow you promised to do. And finally, this last thought. In the married life, men and women sometimes act like undisciplined, perverse children. The husband wants his way, and the wife wants her way, and neither is willing to yield. Such a condition of things can bring only the greatest unhappiness. Both husband and wife should be willing to yield his or her way or opinion. There is no possibility of happiness while they both persist in doing as they please. What do you think of that kind of a admonition it is from God? I believe it is something that we should be more careful about. And in these destroying behaviors, we are going to see what God's servant is actually saying here. So they're just being pulled out in a way that we can appreciate it, and probably I suspect some discussion can ensue in the short period we have, about just 35 minutes. There are about 13 slides. I don't think we'll get through with all of them tonight, but sometime I will come back to them. So, destroying behaviors, and I adapted this from Marriage Missions International as a kind of a relate to what we're looking at. All right. Point 1 talks about controlling or bullying tendencies. And let me tell you something. This idea of bullying is broadcast not only at schools or over the internet, but in families between spouses. Listen carefully. Some questions come first in some instances. Does he or she, the spouse, expect me to account for my whereabouts every single minute of the day? You know, in some relationships, you have to account like an accountant. Where did you go? Whom did you talk with? Whom did you see? Whom did you say that to? But of course, that doesn't exist in our communion here. Am I right? It doesn't exist here. You say that for real? All right. That means in actual fact, another part of our text will be read. That which has been destroyed, God will restore. Now, like all the other presentations, the idea is not to make you feel good or feel sad, but the idea is to cause you to realize your problem, give it to God for deliverance. And this is what tonight especially is all about, because I suspect, like me, you're going to see yourself smack bam right in the middle of these things. All right. Does he or she try to bully me into doing things I do not want to do? Now, people say that perception is reality. Husband or wife will say, I don't bully her, or I don't bully him. But how does the person feel is the most important point here. Does the person feel bullied? And it's not what I think, it's how she feels. Does your partner fail to consult you on important matters? You see where we're going with this? Does your husband do things and you only know when you see them happen? Does your wife function a certain way and you only realize it when she come home? Hey, where's this? So that bullying might not really fit the category that you think it fits. But you see those kind of things there? Gross disrespect. And that is what bullying really is all about. Disrespecting, especially the one who is most vulnerable. Okay? Let's proceed. Now, this is a very interesting one. But we don't tell lies here. Neither are we dishonest. Listen to what I'm asking here. I say, first of all, good relationships are built on what? Is the relationship between us and God built on trust? If you don't trust God, do you think you could really love Him and draw close to Him? No, therefore, then, this is really the gospel in family, as I suggest to you. Good relationships are built on trust. Listen now, Each partner has to be able to rely on the other telling him or her what? Do you tell your partner the truth? Or are there some what we call white lies in order to keep him or her comfortable? We need to be aware that a lie under any guise, white or black, is a lie. And if you cannot be honest with your partner, you're not going to be honest in your relationship with the Lord. The brother mentioned today tithe and offerings. Are you honest with him there? But going further, does my partner ever lie to me? Has your partner ever told you a lie? Or you are so in a blissful false mood that lies are told and you don't even pick them up? The next question is, does my partner, and this is one that I want us to really pay attention to, does my partner try to excuse his or her lying rather than confess it? You know, there are many people, and I said this to you already, that I was told by someone that their partner would do or say the worst thing to them and never say sorry. Never in all their years say sorry, even though they realize that they have hurt or abused their partner. They would never say sorry. And this is an important area that we're going to explore a little further in another bullet, in another slide. Another one, does your partner displays contempt, condescension, and overall lack of respect for you? Now you see this one? This can happen, or it happens particularly when one party feels that he or she is more intelligent or brilliant than the other. And they can say some things that, well, like snide remarks. It says, does your partner treat you with contempt rather than respect and speaks sarcastically and condescendingly? How do you speak to your partner? Or you don't have a lot of smartness, you know. So, you know, those kind of snide remarks. That is gross disrespect. That is a form of bullying as well. Trying to beat the person into submission. That has no place, brethren, in the Christian experience, in the Christian family. That destroys relationship. People stay in relationship because of the children. But when you see the wife get a certain age and the children get a certain age and grow up, she puts wheels on her heels and she just go away. And people say, well, they were living together so long. But they don't know all along she felt abused. But she was bearing it for the children's sake. And, you know, I know I have been challenged by men that I am a woman lover, which I am. But the reality is these problems especially exist among men. I didn't say that women don't have the problem, but it's particularly a problem of men. Women too, but the preponderance of the problem really lies at men. Because I believe, like the Word of God says, if men really love our wives, on average, we can have much better relationships. Women look to us for guidance and love. Because you know what? God designed it that way. If we could get this right, men, we are all right. But going further, listen now to some sarcasm and some real disrespect, condescension, and whatever. Does my partner make fun of me in a way that hurts my feelings? There's some person that got away, oh man, she's a fat person, you know. You see? And one of the worst things you could tell a person is that they're fat. You know, I never realized that until sometime at work. Or how people feel really bad. You know, people who are chunky feel really bad when you tell them about that. I guess because most of us are not that we don't understand it. But it hurts people feeling very badly, you know. And that's why we must learn to respect people and accept them for what they are, however they are. And many people who, I just use that illustration, might be trying their level best to really, you know, get down nice size. But you are throwing it in their faces. Look at it now from your spouse's perspective. You are saying things and making fun of her, especially in the presence of other people. You know how embarrassing it is to make fun of a person? And then in the presence of other people. It means that you don't regard the person. I don't mind what you say. It comes down to that. Next question. Does my partner make snide remarks, about me and act as if he or she does not respect my skills, talents, or contributions? Now, this is a very serious one. That's a very serious one. A wife might be more forward than her husband and makes remarks like, he ain't too smart. They do that, you know. He ain't so smart, you know. Your husband might laugh it off too. But you know the pain that struck his chest when you do that to him. And if you do that to a wife, it is even worse. Because wives tend to be more sensitive than husbands, generally speaking. And therefore, we need to understand, we need to lift the level in how we interact with each other. Don't make me feel that I'm a fool when I know I am not a fool. And you know, it is said correctly that if you are in your relationship with your spouse and you tell that person consistently, because you are the one they look to, and you consistently tell that person that they're nothing, the person begin to believe that they're nothing, you know. And by nothing, I mean that they aren't got the capacity. And that is something that I believe that I had to ask God to deliver me from. Honestly. Because sometimes you can be quick on the draw with your tongue. And you're not careful of how you speak to your wife. And you say, oh gosh, I didn't really mean that. But the words gone out cannot be withdrawn. And the pain and sometimes isolation can occur. So I want us to understand that in this Christian experience, Christ being the center of the cross, his words are not hurtful, even though he seeks to get us from our wrong position to a right position. Husbands must understand that wives have sensitivities that we don't really comprehend. And I believe that when Peter said, husbands, dwell with your wives according to knowledge, this is an aspect of it. Women are very sensitive. More so than men, I should say. Men are sensitive too. We can be hurt and are hurt. But we need to esteem the woman who Peter calls the weaker vessel. Steve, I see you hand with a question. Give me some chance to probably develop a little further. Now, contribution to the home does not necessarily mean bringing money. You heard what I just said? It does not necessarily mean bringing money. Very often it means stability in the house, stability in the home. You know, you can have all the money in your house, and you have an unstable home. You will wish to leave that home and don't ever come back. And Solomon was right. He rather dwell on the housetop, you know the rest of it, than with a miserable and contentious woman in a White House. So what we're saying is, are you disrespectful? Do you, as it were, look down your nose condescendingly on your spouse? Those are things that should not be named among the people of God. And if named, we have opportunity to say sorry, as we do when God shows us his love, and keep moving in a direction or getting on the right direction, for God's honor. This one is, I call it a biggie. Emotional withdrawal. And this is one that I can identify with very well. I like to be honest, you know. It has helped me to reignite some good love with my wife. It has. And I'm sure we are not all there, but I believe that we are progressing. And it calls for honesty. You see, very often we like to push things under the rug. But when you look at the rug, the dirt's still there. Listen to it. Does my partner simply walk away or retreat when there is conflict rather than sit down and talk it through? Don't lift your hand up. But how many relationships are guilty of that? Don't lift your hand up. I can't deal with that, you know. I can't take on that right now, you know. And you avoid dealing with the problem. But when you throw the dust onto the carpet, the dust still there. But listen further. Listen number bullet 2. I love this. Does my partner give the warmth, physical affection, and emotional nurturance I need? You hear it? I need. Or does he or she seem to withhold emotional support? You see this? Many a woman cries out at this point. Men are very good at providing food, clothing, shelter for their family. You can't fault most men on that. But you see the emotional support? Sometimes we men function as if we are pieces of steel. And we are full of emotions too, you know. Sometimes we walk away and cry and want anybody to see. The woman will cry, everybody will see. But what I'm saying is, your wife needs emotional support. I'll give you an example of myself. I know you two won't be offended because it brings her out in a sweet light too. Our son died, as the church knows, due to Greaves, very, very obviously outwardly. I was paining immensely inside. But I wasn't able to really support her as I ought to. I hardly touched her during that time because I was in real pain myself. I would go to work and I would tremble. Nobody knew that. But they knew that she was in trouble because her expressions were overt. Men, we have a problem. You know what it is? We like to hide our emotions too much. And women, you know why that is so? You did it to us. Listen how our mothers all did it to every boy. Big boys don't cry. Anybody know that expression? Big boys don't cry. And that's why he said, we men are very, very, well, sometimes emotionless. And it's not that we drove ourselves there. We were pushed there. The little girl fall, oh, come, darling. Don't cry. And come, darling, not with tears. But the boy, don't cry. Stop crying here right now. But you never do that to the girl. You hold her, you comfort her, you let her understand that, you know what, it's okay to cry. But the guy, mercy. When you're done with him, the poor fella don't know if to cry or not to cry. Because that is how we socialize. And tonight, I might be operating a certain way because, well, you know how you speak. My hands go a lot of work. But I am very, very earnest about this. You see, some of us hurt badly, and no one knows. Others hurt, and everyone knows. The problem is with the person who people don't recognize. Because no one draws to you and say, oh dear, I'm so sorry for you. And it gets you very agitated. Why this is not yet your family is yet your family. They used to ask me, how's your wife doing? I used to say, tell me something. My wife alone lost a child. I was constantly, look, and some of you at the church did that too. I said, oh, these people are real? I lost a son that I loved immensely, that I was at the school the Friday before at his form level and being given accolades. The child was being given accolades. And they're asking me for a wife and not even for me. Of course, I told them my wife was broken, but then you don't never wants anybody at all at work, at church. No, they ask me, but Austin, how you doing? Never once. But I was the Rock of Gibraltar, right? But that was very painful. I'm not saying that the other person they needed support, but I want some too. It comes now also in the family. We must understand that each other needs support. Some of us might appear tough, but the wife, go close to him and see how pappy he is. Because in actual fact, we men are supposed to be house bands, binding the family, but it doesn't mean that you're a rock. You're to be tender and affectionate as well. But let me go a little further. But that is one that I could not resist exploding on, to use that expression. So what I'm saying in the family relationship, please, for God's sake, men, please manifest emotional kindness, I call it, to your wife. Let your wife know by hugs, by kisses, by whatever good means that you really care for them. You know, I have, my wife would tell that I, as a man, love to kiss, I love to hold close, and I love to say I love you. And I believe that that is my responsibility. Not as a responsibility, but because of a relationship. Even if I don't get it back, it doesn't seem to be, overly killing. But the reality is, we also men suffer for emotional support. Men, is not that true, men? Only me and you, Steve, suffer for it. The other men are okay. All right. Going further with emotional support. Only you and I, Steve, no problem. We are more outward going. Listen to this part. If your partner has great trouble sharing his or her emotions or demonstrating love through affection and touch in a way that meets your own emotional needs, it will be difficult to have a mutually satisfying relationship. Yeah, I know, we all have relationship, but the word is mutually satisfying. Do I meet the emotional needs of the wife? Is the wife craving for a hug that she ain't get for the last 3 months? No, some people live in homes and don't hug at all. You think I'm joking, eh? They don't hug. Some men don't know how to hug. Not that they don't have 2 hands to hug. What I'm saying is their mentality does not drive them to hug, to demonstrate affection. These might sound trivial to some people who don't understand, but you see them? Those are a world of difference in making difficult situations nice and easy, When your wife or husband have the assurance, by not only saying it, but showing, it can solve many problems that can, blow into out of proportion. Care, emotional support. All right, Steve, you want to ask your question now, brother? Or make a comment? I just want to get in that because I know how you are,
Good afternoon. Sorry, good night to all. Going back a little bit, you were talking about men belittling their wives or wives belittling their husbands, saying things like, she or he ain't too bright, or whatever the case may be. Is not this where, as marriage counselors, you, Brother Saul, Brother Doug, and such like, should also educate persons who are planning to be married to be more compatible in terms of education, in terms of status, in terms of whatever? They say love conquers all, but we know that that is godly love, not the love we're talking about. And many persons are about to be married or looking to join in wedlock together, shouldn't you as counselors, and this might be a bit to Brother Saul though, shouldn't we also counsel them that when the Bible says be not unequally yoked, it goes further than just religious beliefs, but also goes as far as in terms of education, in terms of status and such like, so that you won't have that problem later on down the road? That's one.
I am going to address that more fully, Brother Steve, not here right now, but during the week. Because yesterday we were looking at some aspects of it. But I have a strong statement from God's servant about that area where she suggests that, not suggests, where she specifically states that, genuine love, that you say conquers all. Because love cares. There are lots of things that we claim to be incompatible that really love solves, And I'm talking about the way we were socialized. We were told, get a good husband, bright man, or bright young woman so that they will help lift you up. That's how we were socialized. But God's servant shows that if even two persons are not on what we call the same level, let's say educationally, they can be very successful because of the basis on which your relationship is based. I was just looking for it to read quickly for you because I was reading it tonight, but it slipped my mind. So I wanted to hold that, and I will bring the evidences and show how she addressed it in actual fact. As a result, many good relationships that could have been developed have been forced to go on the ice because very often, and she's not suggesting that you go and snatch at any old body. She's not suggesting that. But many people have been forced, as it were, because well, I don't think that she is good enough for you. You see that behavior? That is something I want to address. But you go ahead with another one.
All right, that was one. Thank you very much. When we get into the marriage counseling sessions, our marriage club, I was talking to you about, these things will come out even more forcefully. You had one where you said, does my partner simply walk away when there's a conflict rather than sit down and talk it through? That's a very interesting one as well. I belong to the Berean Marriage Club, and they invite us up every, well, it's supposed to be Sabbath fair, Saturday night, come in again. And this is something that comes out. But usually the person who does the walking away is the woman, you know that?
I don't know that, Steve.
Well, all right.
The evidence don't show it based on what I've been reading.
The evidence shows that the woman is the man?
Men very often do not like. I have something got there. It's inside the book. Facing up.
All right. And when people tend to sit down and talk together, you hear this coming out as a problem. I can't get my wife to sit down and talk about something. But does that have to do with how the person was brought up? Let's say, for instance, in my home, when I was brought up, my father was the dominant person in my home. And it has passed on over to me. I ain't gonna lie about that. So therefore, when it comes to discussions in the home, I take the lead.
You should take the lead.
Pardon?
You should take the lead.
Yeah, point taken.
But,
yeah.
How do you lead?
Right, point taken. But in my wife's home, when she was younger, her mother was the person who was silent most of the time and let all the daddy do the talking, the lashing and such like. And that is born out in my house the same exact way. So to me, it goes to how we were all
socialized,
that these things determine how our next family or how the other families will function.
You see, and that is where the gospel of Jesus Christ comes in to solve problems. You see, that is where what the palmer worm, the cankerworm, the caterpillar, and the other thing has destroyed. God said, I will restore. You don't have to continue that particular line that you realize, you know what, that is not the right line. Let me make sure I bind my family, engage my wife. It might take a little doing at first, but if you honestly, deliberately set about breaking that train that you realize is not the right train, God will supply you with the grace. You see, that's what we have to do. We don't have to continue the direction that we saw occurred initially. We are intelligent, and God has given us gray matter and His Spirit to be able to do that. Yes, brother.
The last one, I like this one a lot. Men suffer from emotional support too. They don't let the ladies know, but when the men sit down and talk together, be it in the gym, on the tank, right there, or something out there, they talk about that. Now, let's say, for instance, now, you dress a certain way to please your wife, and she don't say a word because she's so heavenly minded. As we would say, there's no earthly good. So she doesn't compliment her husband and say, well, you look nice, because she's saying, oh, that's bigging up self in him. So I can't tell him those things. But somebody can pass and say, you look so sweet today. And probably drop another comment behind it too. Should it not? All right, we know the outer place. That is understood. But these things happen. And let me draw another example because it's only it's centering on me. My wife might go to and this has happened to her more often than not. She and Lasandra are together, and you hear people dropping comments and ask, who's the mother? And they look like sisters, and you look real young. I can't believe you got 5 children. And she come home feeling real fussy, right? That somebody thinks that the two of them are, Lasandra and her are sisters. And I don't make the comment. But then you hear comments, so say, look, young, what you think? You know, and such like, you don't tell me so. And it is not only for my wife, it happens to a lot of women, even the women that I train at the gym, they will say, well, my husband don't tell me nothing so, but so and so, if this body at work, or this body at church, or this body will tell me X, Y, or Z.
All right, Steve, thank you.
You understand?
I get the message.
Good.
All right, Brother Steve is a fellow that I like because, of course, sometimes he might marry, sit down on edge, and sometimes edge away. But like me, he likes to be honest and say as it is. There are many people who will experience exactly what you say and wouldn't say a word, but they're glad that you said it. And that is good. And all of those things, you see, that would call for maturity in a relationship. We engage each other. We talk to each other. We compliment each other. We show nurturance towards each other. And that is what Christian marriage relationship is all about. You think when Solomon penned those words reminiscent of Christ's love for the church, it was just a bland something? Look, the words that he penned, which we look through already sometime, which we'll go back through at some point in time. Because the reality is, well, I believe a job was done on the black people better than other people, especially on males, as I read in history. You were ripped away from your wife, so that no affection really was really shown. You were going to get your children because your children were to come up and be slaves as well. So the male was pulled away. And therefore that emotional bond was always sought to be cut in the black race. And that's reality. So we now who have been liberated by the gospel and the good news, we are now to see it as God sees it. And don't be afraid to demonstrate love, which very often we are afraid to do. And that is something also that is a big problem, because your partner can be starving for emotional support, but the way you have been socialized, you think it is wrong and unchristian and a sin to demonstrate genuine love, care, and affection for your wife. The converse is true. You are sinning when you don't do that. But I'm going to have to start now because it's already 8:30. All right, we were emotional withdrawal just now. I want to get to this one here. Excessive or explosive anger. You see this? This is a little bully in the yard. A little boy that ain't grow up yet. That just take out the back and go down home when he get out the first ball where the back belong to him. Or just go and wet the pitch. Listen to this. Does my questions then the comment. Does my partner's anger seem out of control or frightening to me? Do you have a partner that gets real mad, that is getting frightened sometimes and threatening? The next question is, and this is when it really gets out of hand. I don't think this is a mouse. I really don't believe that, honestly. I'm not speaking tongue in cheek at all. I'm being honest. Listen, as a matter of fact, I have a withdrawal. Have friends or family mentioned these outbursts to me? So let me tell you something, believers. this happens in Christian circles. When sometimes a child can be abused, when sometimes the law might have to step in some instances, there's so much anger. And those things are really not representing what you claim it should be representing the character of God. Can you see any of us sitting down here listening to these lectures, especially as we heard of, Christ being the center of the cross and all that he has accomplished for us, and yet can we continue, if we are doing it, or can we behave that kind of a way to our spouses? This is something that is mind-boggling. But you know what? When your partner's anger seems excessive, inappropriate to the circumstances, or occurs more often than you are comfortable with, he or she may have a problem. Anger, excessive anger, is symptomatic of a very deep underlying problem. Very deep underlying problem. And that is the problem that you don't have control of your spirit. That's why Solomon says, he that taketh a city is stronger, that rules his spirit is stronger than a man that takes a city. But no, we like to see the strong man walk and rip down everything. And the little man that can control his spirit, but he's soft. But you see how different the word of God is from our perspective, our behavior? Horribly different. The man who is soft is a chicken. The man who is a rough man, he's a Dan. Or Don, rather. But not in God's economy. If you can control your spirit, this is Peter's ladder we're talking about at this level as well. If you can control your spirit, it means that you're reaching a certain level in Christian maturity. And I want to stop on the sixth one because this is the one that is midway. Extreme defensiveness or denial that obstructs open discussion. Extreme defensiveness. A lot of people put up real defenses. Listen to it. Does my partner jump on me or refuse to calmly discuss any differences of opinion that I bring up? It can't bear to have a difference of opinion. I'm the boss, so all opinions must center in what I say. And and the unfortunate thing is, children are in the midst of all this observing. So it means that the next generation, more likely than not, will behave the same way too. And that's crucial, Children are at the center of all of this, especially when they're young, they see everything. They internalize it in their brain, but they don't say a word because they be out of place and might get slapped down. But they are highly affected. Can my partner listen to problems I bring up? Or does he or she usually deny that any such problem exists? That's all in your mind. Anybody know that expression? Don't mind you. You only, alas, we have to confess. That's a figment of your imagination. A person's perception is their reality. Because you don't see it as they see it, it does not mean that they don't feel it. And we therefore then must learn in a very special way not to throw certain words around at people. Do not try to deny the wife's problem that she sees because you cannot see it or because you don't want to see it. Be aware that she is a woman and she sees differently from you as a man. And women and men see differently, I've had a very interesting experience in my relationship. Judy be talking about one thing, we can't understand what she's saying. What's she talking about, though? Well, I can't see that. Step back a little bit and see what happens. Especially if you're in the heat of discussion. Man, your point is a moot point. I can't understand what you're saying. That has happened to me. So what I'm saying is we must learn to step back. Both of us. Let me see what you're really saying. Because very often we don't stop to hear what the person is saying, We don't. Especially in an argumentative phase. You want to get your point over. She wants to get her point over. And neither of you know what the point is that is being discussed. And that's a problem. And then finally, if you try to bring up problems that you see in your interactions and your partner seem unable to listen and instead gets angry, defensive, or completely denies your feelings, it will be difficult for you both to grow in this relationship. It also makes it difficult or impossible to face problems as they arise. Denial never solves anything. What it does, it exacerbates the situation. It makes it worse. As I conclude, then, I'm going to go to the book to read a fast statement because 25 to 9 we should finish at 8:30, so I ask you to just give me a little moment just to read this thing to you. Listen to what on page 23 this mutual obligation says quickly. On the top, adjusting family difficulties. Because I am not here speaking to saints in heaven. None of us are saints in heaven. We are still in the trenches being worked on. Well, if you are the saint in heaven, well, forgive me. Listen to her. It is a hard matter to adjust family difficulties even when husband and wife seek to make a fair and just settlement in regard to their several duties if they have failed to submit their heart to God. You see where the problem lies? Hard, man. But then she says, how can husband and wife divide the interests of their home life and still keep a loving, firm hold upon each other? That is very interesting. Now, for us who have been this way for a long time, you know that home life is an easy bird. Especially if you are a wife doing a balancing act. And like I said someplace recently, wives who work and don't work and are asked to control the family economy have a more difficult time than the man or woman who just works and brings money home. It is like the proverbial expression, we have to cut and contrive. When difficult situations arise in the home, who really is the one who understands how to make a loaf of bread stretch for a week? The man want to eat all one day, generally speaking. By that I mean simply that the woman seems to have a skill, and we can look at that. That is why she's a helpmeet. She's given to help us because we don't understand everything in actual fact. And that is why we are not to downplay the role of the wife. You know, one of our brothers here, I don't know if he is here tonight with his wife who was overseas. You know, I speak of Brother Broom, my good family and friend. Brother Broom said to me, Os, boy, let me tell you something. When you have a wife that you love and she ain't there, you can't even sleep at night. I miss my wife. I'm looking for her to come back. He took food today, hoping that she come, that he could give her the food. So what I'm saying is, you see, we need to understand that wives are precious men. They were given to us to help us. Somebody said the man wasn't complete, and that's what God had to give the woman, to make him complete. But the reality is, except God, and there's no joke, I know something we play it down, but we need to appreciate the role that the wife plays in uniting and binding and causing that house to be a beacon on the hill. And the statement is still true. The hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And the man who rocks the cradle is a woman who rocks the cradle. And finally, and what it says here, they should have a united interest in all that concerns their homemaking. You hear what I said? Homemaking. The homemaking is often left to the wife. And the wife, if a Christian, will have her interest with her husband as his companion. For the husband is to stand as the head of the household. So she's not saying that because the wife has an important role, that the wife does as she likes. No, it is a unity, brethren, that God wants. I thank you for listening, for being so attentive. I hope that we have been encouraged as spouses to remember that our relationship affects our children, particularly, sometimes more than ourselves. God grant us his grace then as we retire for the night and contemplate some of these things. Let us pray. Our Father, your word is clear to us. And I want to acknowledge on the behalf of all of us that we have not fulfilled in every iota the plan that you have for family. Forgive us, therefore, then, and we thank you for opening our eyes a little further to understand, dear Lord, that you want the family to truly reflect you and show to the world what your love is all about. Forgive us, then. Grant, dear Lord, that we might not cast aside disrespectfully thoughts that you may have brought to our attention. But may from here on in, dear Lord, we might seek on your grace to care for our spouses, each for the other, to the extent, dear Lord, that the reformation, the revival that we're longing for might be seen, first of all, between spouses, in families, and in the church. We thank you, Father, for hearing us, for being with us, having mercy upon us, and giving us your word to save us, we pray, in Jesus' name. Let the words of our mouths and the meditation of our hearts be accepted in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Thank you. Have a good night. God bless.